I really want people to know. I know a lot of you know this, okay? I want to reaffirm it because it's really important, okay? Mamdani is exceptional, but he is much closer to the way good politicians used to run than politicians today. Or I should say, he's exceptional, but he's still trending towards a historical norm, you know? When the average politician wasn't 85 years old, when the best way to use the money you got fundraising wasn't spending $50 billion on TV ads and calling it a day, and occasionally doing news drops with CBS or whatever, but rather going door to door, canvassing, campaigning, phone banking, and doing all the shit people actually did for politics for hundreds of years. Well, not phone banking because phones are relatively new, but door to door canvassing has been around since basically day one of democracy. The ancient Greeks were probably doing that shit. I'm not old enough to remember the Obama campaign, but would you say it was something like this? No, because the energy might be high, but the Obama campaign was built on a collective delusion that empty vibes were enough to bring America out of the dark age of the Bush years. This guy's got substance, and he's doing this despite the best efforts of the Democratic Party. Can you compare mayoral canvassing to national presidential campaigning? Yes! Presidents used to literally go town to town. I know this is crazy today because Trump is like the only person in recent memory who's not even close to it. Which was the president who made their own train specifically for going town to town? Back when America had train lines, he literally had a train built so he could do like roaming parades. Okay, a bunch of people are saying it. Maybe a bunch of people did. Was it Teddy Roosevelt? Yeah. Like, even presidents, literally president, would go like, oh yeah, we're doing like the Northeastern Corridor. We're going to stop at like 57 cities in the next 2 weeks, you know? They did that shit. I really hope we don't get the epidemic we got with Bernie, where a lot of the people only supported him off of like anti-establishment vibes, and a lot of those people flipped to Trump. By the way, I should note, more people voted from Hillary to Trump than from Bernie to Trump, to be clear. But I think that within the online pundit, like prominent political space, there were more people flipping Bernie to Trump than Hillary to Trump. Like, if you were with Hillary as a pundit, you're like ride or die Democrats forever for the rest of your life, because you have to be to like Hillary, you know? Whereas a lot of people whose jobs are about courting public opinion jump from populist to populist, you know?
There are many who say that a democratic socialist vision of governance for New York is impossible, that our ideas are untested. To them I answer, we need look only to our past for proof of how socialism can shape our future. Most New Yorkers know the name LaGuardia. Far fewer know Mark Antonio. But here in East Harlem, there is a corner that bears his name. Mark, as everyone called him, wasn't just a 7-term congressman and LaGuardia's protege. He was an unapologetic socialist.
People with names like this now are at the forefront of modern American neo-Nazism. Guys who have like 8-syllable last names that end with 6 vowels are like, yeah, man, if I had only been born in the 1930s, I would have been like one of the Ivy elites with my fancy suits and my martinis, and we wouldn't have let any of the Browns in or whatever. And it's like, my brother in Christ, your great-grandpa was the Brown. He was the guy, fucking fettuccine linguine landing on Ellis Island or whatever. He was the brown guy. You fucking idiot. So are you. If you went back in time, they would see it on your face. Jesus. That dipshit Trump appointee, or Trump appointee to be. Remember? He was like the second guy to have the Nazi logs leaked. Remember what I'm talking about? He was the guy who was saying he was, I don't know, lukewarm on Hitler or whatever. You take a look at his face. Can somebody remember his name? Can somebody give me his fucking name? Was it Paul Ingracia? That's not the guy I'm thinking about. I don't think that's the guy that I'm thinking about. Oh no, I think that is the guy that I'm thinking about. Yeah. This guy. Like, Jesus fucking Christ, man. These are the people, the WASPs, the former Ivy elite are all like Democrats who live in picturesque towns in New England, where they've always been. Meanwhile, guys like this who would have been like, you know, licking sweaty park bench seats for nourishment back in 1932 to survive the Great Depression, these people are like, we brothers, we Volk, I'll see you in Valhalla, ooh. Just, it's crazy. Sorry, I know. It's just like, you people, they want you, they hate white history. The Nazis want you to forget just how much of this country, and how much of New York City in particular, man, New York fucking city, it's just immigration. It is and always has been immigration. And I guarantee you, whatever fucked up future we live in, 100 years from now, 150 years from now, there are going to be guys whose descendants are Nigerian being like, yeah, if I was around back in the 1930s, I wouldn't have let all the Browns in. Yeah.
Fast ally to organized labor and a champion for those who were often forgotten at the time. Puerto Ricans, Jewish New Yorkers, senior citizens, Mark fought for them all. He protected workers as he investigated labor abuses and called for a stronger National Labor Relations Act. He provided English literacy lessons to thousands of newly arrived immigrants, and he fought to expand Social Security to the
they call it the Puerto Rican phenomena. When you see a guy with the darkest skin tone you've ever seen, you're like, you don't think you're black? They get really offended.
Domestic workers who had been excluded. In the words of the great Dorothy Day, the poor of East Harlem felt...
Oh, that's Dominican. You're right. That's Dominican, not Puerto Rican. Thank you for correcting me for my racial stereotype. I try to be on point with those.
But he loved them and was interested in them. It was no easier being a socialist in the 1930s and 40s than it is today. Mark was attacked relentlessly from the right, undermined by the establishment, a target of the resurgent Red Scare. And still, he never apologized for who he was or who he fought for. When he was called a radical, Mark responded, "If it be radicalism to believe that our natural resources should be used for the benefit of all and not for the purpose of enriching just a few, then I plead guilty to the charge."
These videos are so slick, man. You know what's really crazy? I don't think there's been a single high-profile disruption within Mamdani's core campaign since he started, within his campaign team. Like, he's clearly surrounded by very, very, very talented people. And like, you'd think at some point there'd be like, people have arguments, even good people with talent, yeah, he runs a tight ship. I bet you he's only got like 3 or 4 core people, who run everything, and they're the hardest working motherfuckers in the world, What's really interesting I've noticed is that Mamdani is using a lot of the older 20th century American socialist rhetoric from the likes of Eugene Debs instead of more contemporary modern leftist rhetoric. Yeah, I think one of the big reasons why Mamdani's done so well is because he hasn't fallen into the trap that a lot of lefties do of defining themselves using the terminology of the enemy. A lot of lefties will call themselves radical, and I don't think they should, because I genuinely do not think that Mamdani's proposals are radical. Like, radical carries connotations. There's like an implication there, I think, because a lot of people want to be like, oh yeah, you the scary socialist? I am the scary socialist. And it's like, I don't think Mamdani's scary. I just don't. I think if he played up being scary, it would be both a lie and a political error, I think that it's good. It's his demands and his preferences are simple. He just wants what's good for people. It's crazy rare these days, but it's real, and I think that we should embrace the sincerity of that. A lot of people are just allergic to sincerity, In spite of the Democratic Party largely being quiet about Mamdani, you know what I mean, relative to how loud they should be. MSNBC has actually been like hardcore running for him, Actually, the MSNBC has been like partisan for him, which is really nice to see. I don't really like MSNBC. I think they're weak and dickless, and they fail to criticize the Democrats when necessary. But support for Mamdani is an implicit criticism of the mainstream Democrats, and they have been running with Mamdani pretty aggressively. Some of the hosts are all right. Yeah, some of the hosts are absolutely all right. 100%. 100%. I've noticed that like a lot of MSN has been pretty pro Mamdani. Why is that anyway? I'm going to be real with you guys, okay? I truly, genuinely think that a lot of people who work at MSM, right, are not necessarily bad people. They exist within systems that have a lot of rules, regulations, expectations, requirements, and quid pro quos, especially with the 2 major parties. And I think that for a lot of them, Mamdani is both their chance to get ahead of a paradigm shift, and also a reminder of what it used to be like. I mean, can you imagine, imagine being like Wolf Blitzer or something. I don't want to sound nostalgic, because I'm not. I mean, I'm only 31, right? I wasn't around back then, but politics didn't used to be like the way it is today. It was not as corporate as it is today. I think that I think that the excitement for Mamdani transcends a lot of, barriers. Elaborate on what you mean by politics not always being so corporate. The extent to which politicians' decisions and advocacy were based in consultancy and little else has skyrocketed basically since the 1980s, but it's gotten like worse and worse with time. Like, Bill Clinton did this more than I don't know. Why am I blanking on Peanut Farmer's name? Why am I blanking? It's not Jim Carrey. What am I? Jimmy Carter. Jimmy Carter. Did it more than Jimmy Carter, right? Jimmy Carter did it. A hell of a lot less than LBJ or JFK Jr. Like over time, I know it's crazy to think about, even for someone like JFK Jr. and JFK, by the way, like John F. Kennedy, all right, was a deep state plant. He was literally the Nepo son of an incredibly powerful and wealthy man who was basically groomed from birth to be politically powerful. Like he was not some young, enterprising go-getter or whatever. But even in those days, being that, like, you could still enter the presidency and be carried largely by like a core team of people you trust with some business ties, you know? Nowadays, it's not like that. Nobody likes or cares about the politicians that get in for the most part, right? No one really likes Schumer, even though he's been in there for decades. No one really likes Jeffries. These people aren't popular. They're just there. And they're there because they're supported by this like enormous web of corporate and corporate connections, political connections, and deals with lobbyists and contractors and consultants, you know? It's gotten to be less authentic over time. It's what Mamdani cuts through. But like what we're seeing right now with the Trump administration is a break with that tradition. Rather than all of those ties, you're just going with open oligarchical cronyism, which is worse, but it is a break from the previous system, you know, kind of like how, fascism is a break from capitalism to an extent, at least in some modes, but it's worse. What was I saying? Oh yeah. What was the cause in your view? New Deal coalition collapse, rise of Reaganism? I mean both. It's a lot. It's too complicated of an issue to boil down to like a simple cause and effect. There were tons and tons of factors that contributed to it. Safe to say though, like on the whole, on average, over time, one thing is easy to identify. People in politics used to be more sincere and authentic than they are today, by a lot. For all the problems the founding fathers had, like they were shamelessly opinionated. That's why they wrote so fucking much, you know? They believed in the shit they believed in. They were self-interested, and many of them were evil men, but God, they definitely like believed in the ideas they had. They were fucking yappers, man. They weren't like corporate stooges, really. They were just like, they were like the guys. And it was like that throughout most of the 1800s and, you know, early 1900s. And I just think that over time, there's been a shift and now nobody believes in anything anywhere. But whatever.